This has been a fascinating week. We recently saw a poll that came out that put the ANC support in Johannesburg down at 20%. And this got a flurry of interest because the once mighty liberation movement is down so low, and everybody now speculating, is this the end of the ANC? Well, we've got to understand at times like this, if one party is going to go down, another party must be the winner, must get the votes from that particular party. So it got me thinking, what is the problem with the other political parties? That they've got a gap a mile wide, they've got a party in collapse, a leading party, the party that has dominated our politics for the last 30 years, and yet not one political party is putting their hand up as a credible alternative. Let's just sketch the background, not like you need more understanding of the dire situation that faces South Africa. We know that the economy has no economic growth, zero. We've got about 50% unemployment, and local and international companies closing down as fast as possible. Just this week, we saw the closing of the Goodyear tire plant. After operating in the Eastern Cape for more than 100 years, they've decided enough. They pay a BEE tax, they don't have services, they can't get their products, they go offshore, they can't get them to port, the boats, nothing works. They have electricity shutdowns, they've got labor unions that demand higher and higher salaries, just easier for them to do business elsewhere. We saw the closing of the once mighty construction group Murray & Roberts, a South African company. Why? Because there are just no construction projects. The economy is dead. We've got tariffs coming from the US. And remember, everybody says, the US, who needs them? If experience has taught me one thing, understand that what President Trump and the US is doing by telling us what their problem is with us, we should be listening to them. You know why? For this reason and this reason only. Other countries, like the Chinese, like the Europeans, they smile or they say nothing, and then they disinvest. At least the US is telling us what is wrong. It's a bit like if you ran a restaurant and somebody said, there's a problem with your food. At least you know that you can correct the problem. Those other countries aren't telling us what their problem is. Why do you think we've seen no Chinese investment? Because there is a problem with our economy. That is a massive thing. In a country with 50% unemployment, we need something to be done about it. Opportunity for a political party. Then we've got a problem with safety and security. We know it because our president famously went to the White House, told President Trump that South Africa doesn't have a white genocide, we just kill everybody. Not to be outdone, the leader of COSATU gets up and says, never mind the murder, we rape old women. Just this week, members of parliament doing an oversight at a police academy in Philippi in the Cape, get attacked on the way out and get badly hurt by a gang of thieves trying to steal their car and their belongings. The damage, these people got seriously hurt. These are members of parliament doing an oversight in a normal suburb, not in a war zone. If it wasn't for the fact that Ian Cameron was carrying a gun and he could shoot one of the attackers and get the crowd away from them, they would have died. This is a serious problem. And then, of course, we've got our old friend corruption. There seems to be no end to this. We fire one minister of higher education for corruption. She gets replaced by another minister of higher education within the first month. He's now aiding and abetting corruption in the SETAs. Ministry of Tourism, out of control. Minister of Tourism, Patricia de Lille, dissolves a committee to protect an errant CEO from charges. Never mind the fact that the head of the Investment Development Trust, IDT, goes and tries to bribe a journalist because that's her biggest problem. Bigger problem than bribing the policeman who should be coming to arrest her. It's crazy. We've got a crime problem. All of this should be manna from heaven for political parties. But yet, there is not one political party that is jumping up to take up the gap. Now let's look at these political parties, what they offer and why people are finding them so unattractive. Last year, we saw a couple of new parties, or in the last cycle, come along. Rise Mzansi, Build One South Africa, Action SA. What were they promising? They're promising a new South Africa. We are the young, intelligent. What did Cyril Ramaphosa call them? The clever blacks. We are now going to show you that we should be in charge of the country. We should be progressive and modern. What are their policies? ANC policies. Their policies for economic growth are pay a 30% BEE tax. It's madness. Madness, madness, madness. These should be modernist parties. Instead, they're behaving like their parents. And they're wondering why nobody is interested in them. Yes, they've put up a good performance in Parliament, but wow, where's the future in a party that just says, we'll do what the ANC did, we'll just do it nicer? Then we've got those entrepreneurial parties. You know, parties like Good, the Good Party, Al-Jamar, UDM, PAC, National Coloured Congress. These are parties that are there only to protect the interest of their leader. Get their leader into a paid position, and then they're just going to vote for the biggest party that keeps them in power. And we've seen these parties do terrible things inside the metros and municipalities where they have sided with corruption. We see it playing out in Johannesburg, where they've sided with corruption, kept corrupt people in power. Now, not one of those parties is looking to grow. All they want to do is keep the seat for their leader. They don't see a future. None of them have aspirations of running the country or even running it better. They just want to be there so that they've got a job. What about the Freedom Front Plus? Say really nice things. Corné Mulder's a really nice guy. He's been on the show many times. I would entrust him to be in my ward, do this. But what are their policies? Where's their attraction? Really, what is their growth strategy? They have no growth strategy. All they're hoping for is a misstep from the DA so that they can get 2 or 3 seats. This isn't a party that wants to take over the country. They just want to look after their own interests. They want to be a small party and they want to stay a small party. They definitely don't want to become a party that appeals to all South Africans. It's a white Afrikaner party. That's the sum total of their ambitions. How about our friends at the Patriotic Alliance? Patriotic Alliance spotted a gap. They have become the party for colours. They are the only party blessed with a leader with any kind of charisma and sense of humour in Gayton McKenzie. But the roots are in crime. And now those roots are starting to show, and it was shown when their deputy leader, Kenny Kunene, happens to be at the house of a wanted criminal about to be arrested by the police. They're trying to make out like this is nothing. It's not nothing, it's something. We want to know, are you a party or a criminal organization? Also, you are the guys that have bequeathed this kind of bad management on cities of Johannesburg, city of Tshwane. That's your legacy. You must own it, along with the other parties that have put corrupt ANC people in charge. And while we deal with the Patriotic Alliance and this tactic they've got of going after coloured voters, great. What do you do once you've got the coloured voters? By definition, you've alienated everybody else. So this is also not a party looking to govern the country. They're looking to be the representative party of the colored community. So they are not really an alternative to governing the country. IFP. This story is starting to sound familiar. They are a rural Zulu party that seems to be a very flexible position on misgovernance and corruption. It's been the old IFP problem. They put them in charge, give them a budget, especially in rural municipalities, and suddenly people are running it like little fiefdoms. They also seem very comfortable with violence, and IFP never seem too far away from acts of terrible political violence. But they don't really want to break out of this mold as being the party for Zulus. Are they going to run the country? We remember the days back in build-up to 1994 when Mangosuthu Buthelezi was being spoken about as a potential president, and he took them down this path of becoming the party for Zulus only. Nobody there seems to want to change that. How about the EFF? We saw their first decline at the poll last year. What interest group do they represent? Well, they represent the interest group of young, radical communists. And in a world that is moving away from that kind of 1960s dogma, it's hard to see what else they offer. And we've seen this by the action of their very own members, who have been leaving the party in droves. Because it turns out they weren't there for the revolution, they were there for the paycheck. And suddenly there was a new party that could offer the paycheck, and many of their members left to join that party. It doesn't help that their leader, Julius Malema, very charismatic, very outspoken, very watchable, has made it clear that this is a party for him, not for anybody else. And we know what happened when it looked like certain of their leaders were going to challenge him. He booted them out of the party. Well, that's all fine, but the problem with that particular strategy is that you're then never going to get the best talent, because if you're a talented politician and you think the EFF is going to be your home and you could be a future leader, you must know that you better not get too big for your boots, or else you're going to get kicked out. So they're not going to attract the best talent, and it's showing. They also seem to be perilously close to very bad things that happen in some of the metros. The poster child being the city of Johannesburg, where they sit by and watch the city collapse and looted while they are in power. So are they a vote for everybody? No, they're not even votes for the revolutionaries. Otherwise they would be growing. So we've got to rule them out as a potential future leading party. Well, the party that caused all the fuss in the last election was Umkhonto we Sizwe, MK party. This party seems to have started as an anti-ANC protest and was then hijacked by former President Jacob Zuma that made it an anti-Cyril Ramaphosa protest party with the stated aim of rejoining the ANC. We're not sure what they are. They seem to be incoherent, and their role in Parliament, where they were gifted the role as leader of the opposition because of the GNU, has been nothing short of dismal. They thought it was a good idea to bring in a whole lot of compromised ex-leaders of state-owned companies with massive question marks about their own behavior next to them, and thought that these guys would make good parliamentarians. Turns out not so much. If they were good at what they did, they would have been good when they were running the state-owned companies. They seem to be good at destroying those state-owned companies, but I don't think that is a great way to choose your parliamentary leadership. They decided in the infinite wisdom to put Dr. John Tlhophe in charge of the MK party in Parliament. Now, the guy may be a wonderful jurist, and clearly he's an intelligent chap, but I think he's got about as much personality as this desk. He's incoherent. He seems to be, we don't know. It's hard to work out what the guy brings to the party. And he's their leader. So that's not going to happen. And then, of course, there's a question around Zuma himself. Is this a Zuma project? Is it just for the Zuma family? What does the future of MK look like? If you were a young leader, would you go there? No, that's why they've attracted a whole lot of mediocre, failed leaders. I think of two, Bongani Baloyi, Colleen Makubela. These are people that tried to start their own parties and failed. So now they've joined MK. What are their career prospects? They're probably already looking for the next party to join. So MK doesn't look like a party that could come to the rescue to run a modern country that we all want to live in. They look like they might run, as they've said, a rural, monarchist, traditional party with no real legal system. That's really what they're after. So, if I was tired of the incumbents, that's not exactly where I would go and vote. Then we've got to look at the Democratic Alliance. The Democratic Alliance is the party that stood to gain by the decline of the ANC, but they seem to be hell-bent on protecting their own little support base. They've got 20% of the country, and that seems to be the limit of their ambitions. They've got all the white and Indian voters they need to have. They've got a couple of affluent black people that vote for them, a couple of affluent coloured people that join them. But then they go into Parliament, where they get 6 ministries, and they don't have place for one coloured cabinet minister, not one Indian cabinet minister. No. To them, representativity doesn't matter in a country that's representativity crazy. I feel represented. But many South Africans don't feel represented. And the DA doesn't seem to get that that's a problem. The DA is all about process. They run these ministries and they keep on saying, when we run our ministries, we run it better than ANC ministries. Well, my dog Waldo could run a ministry better than the ANC ministers. Well, that's hardly some kind of great achievement, right? There's no charisma. There's no connecting with the people. There's only strongly worded letters. And we understand, because so many people have told us that black voters just do not like the tone of the DA. Now, if you're going to try and prove them wrong, good luck. But surely the best way to do would be to listen and to start understanding what it would take to be a broader-based party that appealed to more people. Will they be picking up the decline of the ANC? Yeah, they'll probably be the biggest winner, but they're not going to get all of the decline. They do have the most modernist policies, but that's great, but it's not enough. They could be doing so much more with what they've got. And then it leaves us with the ANC itself. Right, we always hear renewal. We've been hearing renewal of the ANC for more than 20 years. Quite clearly, at some point, they don't want to renew. Let's be honest. We know that they don't want to renew. We understand that the Mkhwanazi, the Commission of Inquiry, is going to absolutely kill the ANC. It's going to be worse for them than the Zondo Commission. So the 20% that we're talking about for them getting in Johannesburg may be generous. They don't know what to do with trade. We get it. We've got the Minister of Trade and Industry running around the country, around the world, not really understanding what South Africa's trade policy should be. They don't know what they're doing. All they're trying to do is to say, we're going to offer one thing and one thing only, and that is BEE, and it's for our cadres only. So you better all vote for it. There's no effort to clean up the party. So it's not like you can see some great moment where the ANC turns themselves around and suddenly reclaims all of these votes that they've lost. So what now? What about the position that the ANC and the EFF and MK come back together again? I've heard that a lot recently. There's this guy, Bonang Mahale. one of the biggest beneficiaries of BEE, saying that the future is where the alliance gets back together again. Well, good luck with that. They are far stronger in their small little constituent parts. And if they had to govern the country together, all three of them would collapse. This is a country that is screaming out for another party. That is a modernist party that connects with people, that tells blacks that they're good enough, not that they are useless and need a small stake in a white business from a diminishing white population. We need a party to emerge that is a leader of society. Will it come? Hey, man, we can't have this vacuum that we've got. We can't have a bad governing party and no alternatives. It can't be. I don't think we're going to have our Traore moment that so many people are wanting, where a military-style figure rises up and South Africa becomes like Guinea-Bissau or one of these other countries that's currently getting militarized. I don't think our military is good enough, and I don't think that person exists. But I do know that there are some really innovative South Africans out there. And at some point, they're going to get the memo and they're going to say, guys, let's put together a movement that is not based on anger, but based on aspirations. And that party would win the election, and they'd appeal to people across the spectrum. I just can't understand the situation. I look at this stuff every day. It makes no sense to me. Perhaps it makes sense to you. But my Lord, our politicians have left us with nobody to vote for. Those are my opinions. Tell me what your opinions are in the comment section below. Thank you for joining us on the State of the Nation. We'll see you again soon.